Hi, everybody. We're beginning week 5 in curriculum and early childhood development. This week, we're going to continue to develop your understanding of lesson planning, strategies, and protocols. You're going to be exploring research-based teaching strategies. You're going to be developing lessons with differentiation of instruction. And differentiation isn't giving higher achieving students more work. Differentiation is giving work to students at their level. If they are at-risk students, the differentiation may be backing up instruction. If they're higher achieving students, differentiation may be digging deeper into a topic that you're all learning about. You're going to be looking at how planning for differentiation is rooted in the context of learning portion of the lesson plan. And you're going to understand the importance of student motivation. Assignments this week. Chapter 5 in our text, which begins on page 99, lesson planning strategies and protocols. This chapter is designed for teachers who plan lessons and activities involved in both interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary studies. The discussions of lesson planning processes, protocols, and examples can also be useful for teachers who use other approaches to education at the elementary and middle school levels. This chapter addresses the following questions. What important aspect of learning and development are important to consider when planning lessons? How can Bloom's taxonomy be useful in lesson planning? What are the essential components of a lesson plan format? What critical elements need to be involved in the procedure section of any lesson plan? And how can protocols be helpful when planning some types of lessons? What are they, and how can they be applied? You're also going to explore the research-based teaching strategies that are found on Moodle that I'm going to talk about next. Homework assignment 5.1 and homework assignment 5.3 relate back to these videos on research-based teaching strategies. 5.1, you have to research at least 2 sources regarding differentiation of instruction. Why is it important to differentiate instruction? How does this link to the context for learning? What ways can teachers use it? And this, you're going to need the reading response rubric to self-assess before submitting. Please read this carefully. This assignment, you need to use course materials and outside resources to reflect your understanding. Make sure that you're focused on the topic. You need professional and personal examples. Integrate the application of course materials and other professional materials. It should be 1 page, double-spaced. Make sure that you are using citations correctly and referencing those citations. You must have 2 resources, and make sure that your margins and type size are following APA 7 guidelines. Your writing should be clear and concise. You should use terminology correctly, and you should have a minimum of 500 words. Make sure that you include pertinent information on the topic. You summarize information through research, that your writing is presented in an organized format, and you exclude irrelevant content. Before submitting, I would highly suggest taking your writing and running it through Grammarly.com or Chegg.com to check for academic integrity of your writing. If you have questions, please ask me. Homework assignment 5.2, you're going to complete the context for learning and the instruction, delivering effective instruction portions of the lesson plan, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. Homework 5.3, you are to read the website on the importance of student motivation and the use of information along with another source to answer the following question. How is student motivation? How important is student motivation? You need to give an example and share how it can improve student knowledge. Make sure that you use the discussion rubric. The discussion forum rubric to self-assess before posting. Make sure that you're using course materials, professional and personal examples that integrate application of course materials, that you are citing references. Your writing should be between 250 and 500 words, and that you are responding to other students. Again, if you have questions, please ask me. These are the videos on research-based strategies to implement during instruction. And yes, this is the same video. I could not delete it. I don't know how it appeared twice. You only need to view it one time. We talk about the gradual release of direct instruction, guided instruction, questioning techniques, culturally responsive teaching. What does a culturally responsive classroom, what does it look like? Differentiation based on the context for learners. Universal design for learning. Inquiry-based learning. Grouping for instruction. And this is the video on motivation to read. Now this week, we're going to look at the context for learning and the instruction portions of your lesson plan. I hope you're seeing how the lesson plan fits together like a puzzle. Everything relates back to your measurable learning outcomes and these standards. This week, you need to fill out the context for learning. This is where you consider the learners in your class who may require different strategies or supports or accommodations, modifications to the instruction or an assessment. So you have English language learners, students who are underperforming, gifted or students needing more challenge, and students with IEPs. Identify the learning needs represented in your classroom and list the supports, accommodations, modifications, or pertinent IEP goals. This is where you're going to talk about that differentiation piece. How are you going to help these groups? How are you going to support them in the learning for this lesson? We did the assessment sections in week 4. Now we're going to talk about the instruction piece. You have the introduction of your lesson. How are you going to hook them? What learning activity is going to hook them? What is the purpose of this activity? The main body of the lesson. What activities, strategies, assessments will you have, and what are their purposes? Closure. How are you going to end the lesson? And what is the purpose for that closure? You also need to include an approximated time for the introduction, the main body, and the closure. You also need to list all teacher materials and all student materials. And that's the only 2 sections of the plan we're doing this week. Please go back and look at the example for the context for learning and the instruction piece. If you have questions, please ask me before submitting these 2 sections. But just remember, this lesson plan is like a puzzle. We began with the end in mind and we're working backwards. This is our last week before our Christmas break. We are on break from December 21st through January 2nd. So we missed 2 weeks. We will begin week 6 on January 4th. I hope you all have a happy holiday. Thank you.